My name is David Chen, that everyone knows me as Owl.
Owl, as in OWL?
That's right.
Hi, this is Timothy Smith, and this is Grace Unfiltered Street Talk, where real people share real stories of grace. Today, we'll be asking one question. What does grace mean to you? Okay, we are doing something different. We have taken Grace Unfiltered podcast to the road, and we are in Sisters, Oregon, the home of the biggest, littlest, or biggest rodeo in the world, or something.
It's called I think it's called the Biggest Little Show.
Biggest Little Show. Okay, I know something rodeo.
I don't represent the rodeo, but we live here.
So we're doing a man on the street, although this is a little bit different because we were outside at a camp lodge called Left Coast Lodge. And we met this young man affiliated with it, and we started talking about the man on the street roving mic that we're doing, and he was more than happy to participate. So here we are. He invited us in, so we kind of got off the campground and into a comfortable environment. So anyway, we'll just start by asking your name. You have a microphone, I guess.
It's weird. My name is David Chen, that everyone knows me as Owl.
Owl, as in OWL?
That's right.
That's an interesting name.
Yeah.
That would almost be a podcast in and of itself. But if you had
There's so
it's
many-
60 seconds.
There's just so many versions of the story. Honestly, there's versions of the story that take 20 minutes to really explain and get to the depth of it. And the short version, the simpler version, is that when I was traveling on the Superior hiking trail about 12 years ago, I was thinking oh, what should my trail name be? Maybe I should have a trail name. Everyone gets one on the trail. Usually someone gives it to you.
So it's a common thing for...
Yeah. But I was hiking solo in the middle of nowhere in October in northern Minnesota near the Canadian border. So I was like, well, I'm not thinking I'm going to meet anyone. And a couple weeks before the hike, this owl came to me in the park in Portland. It just
Kane, you mean flew up to you?
I was I felt this calling to the edge of the woods, and I went there, and this owl became closer and closer. We were 20, 30 feet apart, just staring at each other. And then I went back a few days later, and I just said, I want to see you again. And the owl came back, and his partner came. And 2 birds were just there.
They were dialed into you.
Yeah. And the first day of that hike, within the first mile, right as we were starting, this owl lands on a branch in the middle of the trail and just looks at me and then flies off. And I was like, okay, that's my trail name.
That's interesting. Interesting story. Well, this will be interesting, and maybe this will tie into the topic of Grace Unfiltered. What does the word grace mean to you? Have you ever thought about that word, and does it have any significance or meaning, or how would you define it personally?
I feel like grace, in many ways, is tied to a foundation of acceptance and forgiveness. If I were to call someone else graceful in this circumstance of maybe they were flustered or maybe they were treated poorly, and they can still find a way to maintain their composure and their intentionality of how they live, I would consider that graceful, which requires a certain level of forgiveness.
I think you are really tapping at the door of the meaning in every sense of the word. I don't think that would be anything that anyone would take any issue with.
And when we're asking these questions, there really are no right or wrong answers, and that's what we're doing anyway, just to get a sense, check the pulse of people, and how they would interpret that word. Because for everybody, we think that the word means something different, and we thought it would be an interesting subject or subject matter to have a podcast on. That's why we call it Grace Unfiltered. So, I think that forgiveness, I always thought forgiveness and grace were synonyms, and I do believe they are. Some people think of grace as a word. A lot of times you'll hear people at like Thanksgiving, while somebody say grace, and it's a word or it means a prayer or whatever. Some people like you mentioned forgiveness. Others might think of it in terms of physical talent, if they're an athlete. So is there anything else that you would attach to that?
Well, personally, I and not to like disregard or anyone's perspective, I don't feel like grace is necessarily synonymous with forgiveness, but I feel like they're intertwined. It's like a prerequisite of forgiveness, and vice versa. Like, yeah, if we're
So you have to have grace to be able to forgive. Is that what you're saying, or are you saying
I think
something opposite?
I think having forgiveness is an act of graciousness, but they're not necessarily exactly the same, but they support each other. That's kind of how I feel about it.
So it almost sounds like there's a spiritual element. Is that fair or not?
I think there can be spiritual elements in everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It almost would suggest, when you were introducing yourself and your name and the owls and all of that, it almost sounded like maybe you were kind of bringing it into it. Or I don't know if it words in your mouth, but would you say that there would be some kind of connection there in some way? Or
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been really interesting. Like, this is a kind of through line of much of my life. I've been like clearing away these former layers of definition of name and culture and just societal expectations of myself, what it means to be a man, what it means to be successful, all of these things. As I clear that away and really get down to the foundations of who I am as an individual, and like really the voice of my soul that wants to come through, I feel like there are these very subtle aspects that have always been there. It's not like I'm trying to add more to my being. It's more of like clearing away the clutter of what has always been there. And the connection to the owls, I feel it was this symbol that I was just like, wow, that's interesting. And as I've lived with it more and more, I realized that it's not an accident. That connection is, there's familiarity, there's resonance of something that's always been there.
Well, that's very introspective, insightful. It sounds like that you were definitely thinking deep and very personal. Would you answer, that thought-provoking question, what is grace? I don't want this to be me adding other thoughts at this time. If there's anything else that you want to expound upon that topic of what it is, what it could be, what you've heard it to be, that you want to comment on or say anything about?
Yeah. I also would say that grace is very, very closely interconnected with compassion, in the sense that it's not about just empathizing with someone else or pitying anyone else, but to hold space for unconditional love and acceptance of others. I feel like that is compassion, and it is an act of grace to do that. And it's like, I was recently chatting with someone, and she's a brilliant woman, and she just said one thing. It was like a couple of years ago, and it never really left me. We were in this class together, actually. It was a workshop she was leading, and we were talking about the dynamics of where other people are coming from, or someone does something wrong to you, or just in their own way. And we get, as people, we get so caught up with like, you did this to me, I wanted it to be this way. Like, all of our own attachments and frustrations is really our responsibility. That's like one of the oldest, tenets of most religions, at least in Eastern religions especially, is like owning your reactions. And there's always a space, to get back to what that woman said, was if you lived that person's life and made the choices that they made, or had their upbringing or their epigenetics, or like everything that has been passed down generationally in so many ways, societally or in our blood, then you would be that person. Then you would make their decision. You would treat that other person the way that they did. So to look at it from, it's not to give allowance and to say that all the like relative wrongdoing in the world is okay. It's not to say that that is acceptable, but it's still holding space for the fact that we are all in this system together. It's not you versus me. It's not that tribe versus this tribe. It's not political parties fighting each other. This is simply a system split, yin and yang, of all of humanity at once. And to accept that, and to allow people to be and just say, I love you as you are, and I'm going to do my best without self-righteousness, that is compassionate grace.
Yeah, I think it's very good. Unconditional love is a huge one. And some would say, and I'm going to pose this, I'm going to shift the conversation now after you've said some very, very thought-provoking thoughts that are very personal to you. Some would say the greatest picture of grace is found on the cross of Jesus Christ. Have you ever thought of that as a picture of God's grace to mankind or humankind?
I feel like the symbolism of martyrdom is very powerful, and it has the potential always to inspire as well as provoke, for better or worse. I don't choose to subscribe to any particular methodology. But I can see and understand and respect the perspective and the symbolism that can go with that perspective.
It's a powerful visual, though, like I think that's what you're saying too. Martyrdom, or any way you see somebody that is sacrificing. The Bible actually talks about, and I'm not a Bible teacher, I'll just tell you straight up. Nor am I a pastor or anything like that. But I have I have thought about this myself personally, like you're thinking right now. And I think there's just no better picture than what the Bible says about God sending his son in the flesh down to pay the debts for our sins, because it's clear that we're all sinners if you read the Bible and study it, that this is the solution where he took on our sin when he died on the cross. Our sin, past, present, and future, is paid for. And that's something that we do want to get across with our podcast, particularly on the spiritual biblical side of things. And it's not necessarily an immediate understanding, but I wanted to work that at least into the conversation and just see how you'd respond to that, positively or negatively, or whether you would have any interest in probing that a little further, because we both, for example, put all of our weight and our trust for the future in knowing that through God's grace, we have peace with God. And all we do is believe it. It's not by anything we do. It's not performance. It's not because we have a podcast. It's not because we wouldn't have to have this podcast. We could do, essentially anything for a living, and we're not earning God's grace. There's nothing about, we can't earn it. All we can do is believe it or not believe it. So there's a lot of peace in grace, and it doesn't require effort. It just requires belief. So I wanted to work that into the conversation. Is there anything else that you want to leave us with, or comment further on what you've said or what I just said?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So we appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. And
I think I will add one thing.
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Just give me a second. I've been practicing with myself lately, just in life, of breathing.
Yeah.
So pausing in between.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so easy to get the mind rolling.
Yeah. So just take your time.
And thanks for your work.
No, sure. And yours.
That's the value of editing.
We try to keep it unfiltered as much as possible.
This is a good topic. This is a really good topic. And it's something that I have kind of chewed on for my entire life. I grew up very strong Christian family. Non-denominational. We go to church homes and different people's homes. They come to our house all the time. different cultures. My father's Chinese, so we had like Chinese meetings. I didn't even understand what they were saying at my home all the time, at other places. It was just it was like foundational of our life. Actually, it wasn't just a thing we did. It was like we were Christian people, and so like I'm not new to a lot of these the concepts. I mean, like personal beliefs. In this stage of my life, and awareness and knowledge and personal perspective, I don't actually believe in this specific the narrative and the story with the concept of sin being absorbed for me, or kind of taken from my responsibility. And that's not to discount anyone or bash on anyone's beliefs in any way. It's just like there's so much respect and neutrality in a lot of my being. I try to practice that, but I also want to like hold space from my own perspective of looking at things from just an authentic perspective. And what I feel is that the concept of sin, the concept of good and evil, the concept of short and tall and fat and skinny and light and dark, and all of this is really human conceptions, you know. It's up to our level of discernment of what is good and bad. Just as an example, just like utopian example here. Yeah. Let's imagine that we have an entire world of relative peace. Everyone's getting along. All the food systems are stable. All the environment is like balanced. Everything is just happy. Kids are nice to each other. Everything is good. You know, the relative effect of one person stealing something once could be like as astronomically shocking as the wars that we witness today. And the relativity of that.
But what would that take for that to be, like you say, utopian? Sin would have to be gone. Sin would have to be erased from existence.
I guess the point is that sin is not objective. The point is that sin is a matter of perspective. And like the things that we, like certain aspects of sexuality, for example, you know, as times have changed of hundreds of years ago, it was like sinful for a woman to show her ankles. Mm-hmm. You know, and culturally in different times, you know, like the bar is always shifting. I mean, of course, like
I think it goes like in basic things like murder, stealing. I mean, I think those are things that are universal that even are not subjective.
I hear that. I think, but even that is still our own constructs. And if we zoom out on a global scale of just life burgeoning on this rock out in space, I think everything that we create of this so-called war of good and evil is our own doing.
I think what I'm hearing you say is another place, another time, like eternity. That's what I'm hearing you say without saying those words. Is that fair?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, it's almost like when I think of utopia, I think of like a perfect world, a world that doesn't exist now in this form, but someday maybe could exist.
I guess what I was just saying was, as I was just creating an example, discussing the relativity of sin and like how much worse sin could be in our existence now if we think of just the crazy ways our mind can go, and how much less severe sin could be, yet it could be like the worst thing in the world if someone stole that apple. I guess the details of that don't really matter. I think the point that I'd like to say is that I don't actually believe I need anyone to save me from my sins. And at the same time, I choose to do my best to live with integrity and to choose a life of love and lack of harm. And the symbolism of what Jesus represented, what he represents, I honor. I honor the symbolism and the story of boundless love. I aspire to that. But I don't believe that I'm lost without him. I don't believe I'm lost without anyone else.
The thing that I would encourage, and I would encourage anyone listening to this, I will also admit that there was a time when I thought a lot about my own thoughts, my own attitudes, my own beliefs, my own opinions. And I think it's important for the listener, as we have this conversation, to think outside our own thoughts, our own opinions, and consider where truth, according to the Bible, is found. Otherwise, we will find ourselves trapped in our own thoughts, our own beliefs. That would be all I would say about that right now. But I appreciate your time talking, and I thought it was a very insightful conversation. And I'm sure that there are a lot of people that think very similarly to your thoughts, and I respect your thoughts. But it is important that our thoughts are aligned with the word of truth found in Scripture. And we thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us. Al, David, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
If today's episode stirred something in you, share it with someone who needs light. Follow us at Grace Unfiltered Podcast, and don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. Until next time, stay real, stay rooted, and keep walking in grace.